When White Star inaugurated service from Liverpool to Sydney in the late 1890s, they commissioned 5 steamships to be built for that route. And because the commissioning of these ships coincided with the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria, they were referred to as the Jubilee class. The largest of the class was the Suevic, at 12,531 gross tons, launched on December 8, 1900. The ship could carry 400 passengers in third class on 3 decks and also had substantial cargo capacity with 7 cargo holds, most of which were refrigerated. She set sail on her maiden voyage to Sydney on March 23, 1901, and in August 1901 she made her one and only voyage from Liverpool to New York City. On one 1903 voyage, a young officer named Charles Lightoller was assigned to crew the Suevic as a punishment. During the voyage, he met an 18-year-old woman who was returning to her home in Sydney, and after a shipboard courtship, the two were married in Sydney on December 15, 1903. The Suevic's first 6 years of service were uneventful. On March 17, 1907, she was inbound to Plymouth with 382 passengers, 141 crew members, and nearly full cargo, including thousands of sheep carcasses. By noon, she was off the southward coast of England, with this section of the English coast being hazardous due to shallow waters, sharp rocks, and often dense fog. By 10 p.m., the Suevic was encountering a strong southwesterly wind and severely reduced visibility due to showers of drizzling rain. The ship's officers were not able to fix their position using stellar navigation, so they intended to use the Lizard Lighthouse on Lizard Point in Cornwall. At 10:15 p.m., the lighthouse was sighted through the gloom at the ship's estimated position. It should have been more than 10 miles away. However, unbeknown to the crew, due to miscalculations, the Suevic was actually 16 miles ahead of her estimated position. Not realizing the error, the captain wrongly estimated that the lighthouse was several miles away. This was in part due to fog over the lighthouse, which threw its beam down low on the horizon, and made it appear further away than it actually was. The ship pressed ahead at full speed, without using the sounding line to ensure that they were not approaching the shore. Soon afterwards, at 10:25 p.m., the lookout sighted breaking waves ahead. The captain ordered hard to port, but it was too late, and the ship ran aground violently at full speed on Stag Rock in Maiden. The crew made several attempts to back the ship off the rocks, running the engines at full astern to no avail. Despite her position, the ship did not appear to be in danger of sinking. The captain ordered distress rockets to be fired, and a local rescue effort ensued, with all the passengers and crew escaping to shore safely. The bow section was badly damaged, but not irreparably so, and the rest of the ship, including the boilers and engines, was not damaged at all. It was determined that if the ship could be lightened, the tide would then lift her off the bottom and she could be sailed to port. On March 20th, cargo was unloaded into small coastal freighters. Initially, it appeared that the attempt would succeed, but a week later, after various other vessels had attempted to pull the Suevic off the rocks, the weather deteriorated and waves drove her further onto shore, from whence she could not be moved. With the bow now irreparably stuck and the threat of even worse weather coming which could completely destroy the ship, many experienced salvagemen believed that the only course of action was to abandon the Suevic to her fate. However, the Liverpool and Glasgow Salvage Association, acting on behalf of the White Star Line, suggested an unorthodox method of salvaging the ship. As the real 400 feet of the ship's length was undamaged, and this portion contained the boilers, engine, and passenger accommodations, They believed it would be worthwhile to attempt saving the stern half of the ship by cutting the ship in two and separating it from the impaled bow. White Star decided this was a worthwhile risk, as rebuilding the ship would be a cheaper option than building a replacement vessel. Engineers selected a point just aft of the bridge to cut the ship in two, and this had to be achieved by detonating carefully positioned charges of dynamite. The work to place the explosive charges was hazardous and took several days. But the move was a success, and on April 2nd, the aft half of the ship floated free. The exposed watertight bulkhead remained secure, and the Suevic was able to steam under her own power, in reverse and guided by tugs to Southampton. The damaged bow was left on the rocks to be broken up by waves as well as to be scavenged by the locals. The Suevic's stern was taken first to Southampton's test quay, where it docked on April the 4th. 2 days later, it was taken to be dry docked at Trafalgar Drydock. White Star then ordered a new 212-foot bow section from Harland and Wolff, which was slightly longer than the original to allow for proper grafting. The new bow was launched head first on October 5, 1907. It was popularly said at the time that the Suevic was the longest ship in the world, with her bow in Belfast and her stern in Southampton. The new bow arrived on October 26. By mid-November, it was in position to be joined with the rest of the ship. The bow was a good fit, a testimony to the craftsmanship of the Harland and Wolff shipwrights. On January 14, 1908, the Suevic was completed and returned to service. The Suevic's captain was found liable for her wrecking at the Court of Inquiry and had his certificate of competency suspended for 3 months, although the trip has been his last before retirement. Following World War I, the White Star refitted the Suevic in 1920, modernizing her passenger accommodations, which was reconfigured to carry 266 second-class passengers, after which she returned to the Australian service with her remaining sisters. In the late 1920s, White Star began withdrawing the Jubilee-class ships from service. Suevic continued in service with the White Star Line until she was retired in 1928. In October of 1928, White Star sold her to a shipping company in Norway, and she was renamed the Sky Titan and converted into a whaling factory ship. On April 1, 1942, making an attempt to escape into Allied-controlled waters, the ship was scuttled by her crew after being confronted by German warships. The 111 crew were captured by the Germans and taken as prisoners of war. The wreck of the Suevic remains a popular diving site today, and the ship's bell is on display at the National Maritime Museum in Cornwall. Despite its unfortunate end, the Suevic was a significant ship in the history of the White Star Line and the shipping industry as a whole, reflecting the growth and technological advancements of the early 20th century.